Hello. I will try not to speak maybe close. Welcome everyone. So we are almost done. And we would like to close this conference with a talk about our experience at TI Panorama and two editorial projects which are apparently very close, but when it comes to details, it turns out that the needs might be very, very different within one micro community. So, but let's starting with the general point. I think we can all agree that digital scholarly editions of correspondences are currently numerous and robust. When we go to this catalog of curated by Patrick Zale of digital scholarly editions, almost 15% of all types of editions here are letters. Almost, yeah, that's significant in my opinion. And of course, there is a special interest group on TI correspondence, which developed a correspondence desk substandard for TI guidelines, currently incorporated into that guidelines. And also there is a whole project dedicated only to metadata in correspondences and letters, Corressearch. So you can always add your digital scholarly editions resources to that platform. And also aforementioned and our guests at Wednesday Ediciones, even if they don't have the filtering of their project registry by letters, if you scroll down, you can of course say that there is, for example, corpus Ophianus and Discus text and correspondence. And even if you don't have the letters in the name of the project, but you go into the project website, you can see that, for example, of Humboldt Digital Projector, there is also filtering genre by personal correspondences. And also on TI Panorama, surprisingly to me, we've got still it in some parts in English, but we can also filter by letter because this is the content we have on our platform. So, as we can hopefully agree that digital correspondences of letters might be somehow a community within the larger community of digital scholarly editions, we have to think what community means, because of course these examples, especially the first one, is about digital humanities, but if you can switch this phrase to digital scholarly editions of correspondences, who is in and who's without, of course, people who are mainly working on letters, but still, if you think about it, probably it's still a very broad concept. I mean, you can easily think about, for example, early modern correspondences, micro community. Micro doesn't mean that it's not important. That is not important, that it's important, but even smaller and more narrower than the general, and how to integrate it within the larger level, the general correspondence. And still, is it possible to meet all the needs within such one? While reading a bunch of texts about digital scholarly editions, you can come across this term, communities of practices. It's even in our name for our conference. It wasn't detailedly described as something. It's rather defined as, for example, TI editions are highly dependent on practice and so on. So still, we don't have like a coherent definition of community or micro community. So we decided we would propose one. Of course, this is like very drafty and maybe simple like now, but when it comes to any micro community or community in digital scholarly editions, basically it has a different aspects of it. There might be a community around language, around like in Ediciones is often gathered around TI publisher, and the needs of our needs for our literary data establish a micro community. So, of course, I would also say that in our case, we will identify such community which has some properties because we will talk about 2 digital scholarly editions on TI Panorama, but let's establish that for the first point, this is a post-war correspondences of Polish writers, so Polish language, and probably literary data again, within the one platform, TI Panorama, and this platform aimed to standardization, more like the manufacture of edition, like this is not a single page for a single website for one particular edition, and we should meet the needs. But nevertheless, if you think about it, like letters, post-war, Polish, and writers, what can go wrong? I mean, it's probably easy to integrate these 2 corpora, right? 2 corpora of letters. Probably the needs of the editors would be similar, close, etc. Now, when we have the whole play and we need to analyze particular cases from the commentary, and now Paweł will talk about more these particular 2 editions, and now we will go straight to the editorial commentary and see how it might differ even in such narrow micros community.
Okay, our examples will come from 2 corpora. First is letters of Kazimierz Wierzyński and Mieczysław Grydzewski and Jan Lechoń. I will name them Scamander correspondence. It will be a few times during this speech. And the second one is correspondence of 2 women writers. I will tell some details about this correspondence. The first one is completed, and there is the addition of 2 poets, Kazimierz Wierzyński and Jan Lechoń, and Grydzewski, who was editor and spiritus movens of the pre-war literary group known as Scamander. There is the name of why is the name we named this correspondence Scamander. It is the first digital edition on the TEI Panorama, the all platform to digital scholarly edition. It was intended as a hybrid edition. This is very important, where the paper edition formed the basis of the digital edition. Based on a research study by Beata Dorosz, this was a project manager, and Paweł Kądziela. The digital editors converted the corpus of the letters in the paper edition into a fully digital edition by annotating the text with entities and transforming traditional footnotes into their digital equivalents. There's obvious. The digital editing platform itself was created specially for this project and is still being developed today. The last one information is the corpus comprised of 1,336 letters written, which was written from 1920 to 1969, and the majority of which fall into the post-war period. There's quite important. And the second one, the quite similar size, comprising 1,306 letters. It consists of the correspondence of 2 women writers and covers the years of 1940 to 1949. But what is very important, that is only the half of the correspondence which survived from these 2 writers. This edition is also a hybrid in nature, with the paper version taking precedence over the digital version. The entire corpus is supervised by Professor Ewa Głębicka, but every volume has another editor. It's a quite different situation than in previous correspondence. Unlike the previous corpus, a large portion of this part of the letter dates from the war period. Okay, the next one. The genre to which we would classify the edited materials, as well as the period from which the letters come, are not the only features linking the two projects. They also linked by a community of recipients of the corpora. They are, of course, researchers of the same period, that is very important, who, although depending on their interests, lean towards the history of émigré or national literary life, but they must demonstrate a great deal of common knowledge. After all 5 correspondents between the wars more or less worked in the same cycles, published in the same literary magazines, and sat on the same boards. It was one group of literary circle, I have to say. A very important feature of this project is that both Professor Dorosz and Professor Głębicka belong to the same community of editors centered around the documentation workshop of contemporary literature in this institute. So their approach to editing is characterized to great convergence. That's also very important because we will see on some examples that even this feature can be not enough to make our work easy, really. The next one. Okay. To sum up this part, we can say that we have 2 editions of literary correspondence of authors belonging to the same literary circles from the same period, prepared by 2 eminent editors who belong to the same tradition of Polish editing. The digital edition, on the other hand, are prepared on a single platform by the same group of editors according to a preconceived assumption. Each edition is prepared manually without extensive use of automatic marking, which means that despite the proximity of the corpora, they have to be edited anew each time. We are therefore dealing with at least 3 communities: researchers, traditional editors, and digital editors, whose needs and expectations are determined, among other things, by the research tools and data they work with, as well as many other factors. Okay, and it will be some examples. Okay, the first one example here is personal entity. Jarosław Iwaszkiewicz is a well-known Polish writer. And is a very good example of 2 different editorial approaches. It is worth emphasizing that both are these 2 explanations fully legitimate and result from conscious decision, because you will see maybe next. There is the first examples. In the edition of Scamandryci, because this is explanation from Scamandryci corpora, Beata Dorosz decided that entities which were totally obvious, this was Jarosław Iwaszkiewicz for Polish specialist, is well-known author, don't want to be explained very carefully. And there is from the second one conducted by Ewa Głębicka, and as you can see, there is more explanation, more explanation, because that was the decision of Ewa Głębicka that this entity have to be explained for some reason. There was their school of editing. Okay, there's the sum up. The sum up to different ways of description. One of minimalistic, and the second one is bigger, but focus on the very important facts. We don't show you all this explanation, because I think it's not the point. And I think the more problematic one will be the explanation of this one man. It's Ferdinand Goethel. He can be counted among the most controversial figure of 20th century Polish literary life. He was one of the few Polish authors to submit to registration at the German Propaganda Amt in Warsaw while acting in conspiracy in the same time. He was one of the first to learn about the murder of Polish officers in Katyn on Stalin's order. For this reason, among others, he had to flee the country after the end of the war, and his name was covered by censorship records. Today, attempts are being made to rehabilitate him by right-wing literary circles. It's quite a historical policy of history, if I can say. These few facts make an objective and unbiased description of this figure quite difficult. This can be seen in the description provided in both editions. We have presented the most important differences here, but in fact, understanding them requires taking into account the wider context. It is another reason why combining entity description in the digital edition, although seemingly easy, proves to be a challenge. And here you can see the whole explanation. There's from Skamandryci, and there's from Dąbrowska-Kowalska, these two woman writers. It's really quite the same, but the more important facts are in between the line, if I can say so.
Okay, just to wrap up one thing, this is the view of our index of entities. So this is connected to the source text, and the description should appear. Right now it's quite chronologically, but still when we started our TI panorama, not even has this particular name that 7 or more 8 years ago, and we were quite not ready for that particular editor might want to add his own description of a particular person, another type of entity. That is why at the moment we keep them both with just highlighted text, who is the author of which one, but still in the terms of per principles or linked open data, at some point we would like to decide, for example, which of one should be reusable or which one should be, or maybe to design a function to choose one of them for further reuse. But at the moment we keep them both on one place. And when it comes to the, not person, but the journal type of entity, there is something like Wiadomości Literackie. This is a weekly magazine published in a pre-war period in Warsaw, which is quite vital for the Scamander correspondence, because the authors of this correspondence were the author also in the were the authors of the Wiadomości, this particular weekly magazine. And if you see in Scamander, again, this description is quite minimalistic, I would say. Like the editor decided that this is so obvious because the researchers of this Scamander poetry group already know everything about them, and only the most necessary data for the less known people, etc., should be like more enriched. And this is like obvious. And when you come to the second pair of correspondence, you can see, for example, you don't even have to read the whole one. By the way, the English part was translated with DeepL because we are not translators ourselves, just for the purpose of this conference, but the data are originally in Polish. And you don't have to even read the whole English or Polish part, but you see that there is talk about Mieczysław Grydzewski. Here is the Scamander poetry group, etc. And this description is even more Scamanderish than in that previous case. So again, both of them will be kept, and of course their authorship origins will be made clear, but still this is something for us new, that editor doesn't want to, for example, use already written description, because the editorial need is to create their own, to share their knowledge, for example. And of course, this is also probably some kind of paper paradigm, because in the paper editions, it was very common, and it still is probably, to write all the data and do a research, etc. again. And yeah, so basically I just wrap it up without this slide. But yeah, for example, the last case study we would like to share is the Czesław Miłosz, Polish novelist. And the editor decided that no description of Czesław Miłosz is necessary because it's obvious who he was. And the second one, we've got some larger, but we are not here to evaluate or which one approach is better or not. We have this platform and we have to figure out how to handle this situation. So right now, of course, we also annotate each person manually. So we decided that Czesław Miłosz is important, for example, because on this view, we don't have not only the description, but for example, all these files where this entity exists. So even without no description, it's still valuable for us to annotate such entity. But yeah, we were quite at a pickle at some point what to do if we have the third, or not even correspondence, but the data, literary data from this period about this particular person, and the third or the fourth description will emerge. So the summary isn't like super groundbreaking, but yeah, even with the same editorial micro-community, the needs might differ sometimes significantly, because we are all still on this human level. Each person, each editor has his own view, even trying to be as much, I don't know how to say, not to be much interpretative. It's still, we are humans, so this is our view, our principles, and so on. But still, we as a digital humanist must let's say, answer to that with still having fair data principles in mind. For example, I still need to figure out how to ensure proper reusage of this data, because, for example, Ferdinand Goeckel probably isn't, no, we don't have a screen, but he probably isn't on Wikidata, so we would like to enrich it in the second way, not only take the Wiki ID for us, if it exists, but we also could create with such detailed description. Of course, it should be probably translated to English, etc. But still, if we have so many still professional descriptions of such person prepared for a professional editors and so on, how to handle that are in fair principles data, but still this should be the guidance through such challenges. And of course, it's again nothing really new that thorough user research, maybe testing, should be beneficial in regard when someone comes to a site of Czesław Miłosz. In us, this is one description, but Jarosław Iwaszkiewicz, how the user will react for so many descriptions in one entity. Should it be clear to them that this is a different approaches to commentary in editorial area, or it will be confusing, etc. Because also when we talk to developers, for them it isn't very intuitive. But of course, this is a comment from someone outside the academia circles, etc. So yeah, we end this presentation quite open without any clear solution maybe right now, but still I think this might be at some point interesting if we aim at tools that gathers many editions, not only one. So thank you.